Hey Dom, good to catch up with you 8 months after the sale. Mate, I'd love to, just for our buyer audience, just get a bit of a sense of your experience during the sale process, why you decided to buy this business and where you are 8 months further down the track. First of all, tell
Yep.
us a little bit about the business that you bought through me 8 months ago. Uh, and uh, and actually start with a little bit of a story because you were one of the last buyers to actually inquire on the business, and you
Yep.
had inquired from overseas. We had issues
Yep.
getting in touch early on because of overseas phone calls and overseas
Yeah.
phone
Yeah.
numbers and things like that. And you were coming to Australia, you were moving back to Australia in a couple of weeks, but you just moved so quickly. Uh, and you were the successful buyer of the business. So congratulations,
Yep.
but mate, tell us a little bit about the business.
The company is Rush Roasting Co. We're a coffee roasting company based in the Southern Highlands in New South Wales. We roast about a ton of green bean a week, which is medium sized coffee roaster. We have about 50 cafe clients, and we also have about an 80 seat cafe that's attached to the coffee roaster. So that we roast the beans behind me, as you can see, the coffee roaster. We sell them through our cafe, and then we also sell them to other cafes, pubs, clubs, restaurants.
And
Um,
Dom, you didn't come from this industry.
no, we a bit of a backstory. We were living in the UK for about 5 or 6 years, and we'd always wanted to have our own business, but our visa didn't allow it in the UK. So the plan was always to buy a business on our way back to Australia. And I started looking for businesses on our sort of, as we were leaving the UK, coming back through to Australia. And actually, I saw it. It popped up, and I saw it, and I read it, and it didn't first pique my interest. But my really good friend, who was with me at the time, he had a look at it about a week later. He sent it back to me. He said, "Have a look at this one again." And then I thought a bit harder and thought, "Yeah, actually, this is something I could get into." Because we were originally thinking of trying to do a wedding venue,
Mhm.
but the setup costs and the capital costs of that were just like multiple millions.
Mm.
And then this sort of started to make more sense because my wife had always wanted a cafe. There was the wholesale roasting arm which I could focus on. So it started to become something that I wasn't initially super interested in, but it sort of over time it started to make more and more sense. Um, yeah, and so that was 8 months ago, and it's been fantastic. I wish I'd done it earlier, to be honest. We'd always talked about starting our own business. I don't think I had the risk appetite to start my own business. I'd sort of worked in turnaround and things like that. So I had a bit of an understanding of how to operate businesses, but probably wasn't quite in the mind frame of bootstrapping something and starting it up myself. So we were very focused on trying to find something that was established, that we could come in, try and learn, and then run ourselves.
Mm.
But it's been awesome. I love it.
So Dom, you've probably looked at other businesses as well, but you've decided to buy Rush Roasting. When you're looking at a business, you've got obviously the numbers and you've got the seller. The way that you approach this sale, I thought was quite different to other buyers. I know did what you needed to do with the numbers, but you really focused on the relationship with the seller and whether or not you felt you could trust the seller and vice versa. Tell me a little bit more about your approach when you're buying a business.
Yeah. So obviously you need to do your DDs on the numbers and make sure you're comfortable with them. And it's got to be delivering returns that you are happy with and that you can validate. But yeah, the big thing that we focused on was, and this is like genuinely, it wasn't a strategy, it was more just what was important to me. Um, Getting to know the seller, making sure they think that they're someone that you can work with because you're going to work with them intimately for the next year or more. Um, and I was really lucky because that was important to me to build the relationship with him and vice versa. He really invested in me early and gave me a lot of face time.
Yeah, yeah. So you really got a lot of access early on to the seller, and but sellers don't normally do that. To be honest, like they normally don't
Okay.
let that happen, especially before contracts exchange.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah.
And so there's something that you must have done in terms of like, and I know this from the client because when we were speaking with other buyers, and I'll tell you something interesting in a minute as well, but when we were speaking with other buyers, the seller, he just felt so confident with you, like you were responsive, you were a nice
Really?
person. He could see that like you were a good successor for the business. He could see that would treat the staff well, you would treat the customers well. It was a bit of a legacy thing for him as well. He wanted
Yeah.
to make sure the business was going to good hands. When you were thinking about putting together the deal, this was the other thing that stood out to me that was a bit different about you.
Yeah.
You didn't overcomplicate it. Rather than go into this sort of like negotiating every single term, you were
Yeah.
like you did a little bit differently. What was your approach?
I didn't know that. It's kind of cool to hear that because I was trying to just keep it simple and sort of make it hard for. I didn't want to take the momentum away from the deal, and I didn't want to introduce time that creates risk, time
Mm,
delays to create risk. Interest rates, it could have delayed it a few months and interest rates could have gone up and I couldn't have been able to borrow the amount that I needed to borrow. So I was consciously trying to drive the pace, not like aggressively, but to just sort of keep it going, build the rapport, build the trust. That it's cool to hear that because that was a conscious thought to try and push things along quickly and like almost not give them a chance to sort of say no to you in a way. Like not don't sort of concede on things that are important to you, but to try and push the pace and not really give them a reason to not keep going with you
mm.
was my thinking at the time.
I remember having a number of conversations with the client, and he's just such a lovely, lovely guy. And I know you guys have
Yeah,
got
he's
such
a
a
good
great
guy.
relation. Yeah.
Yeah. We sit next. He's not here right now, but we sit next to each other every day. Or we're in the van doing deliveries every day. Or yeah, we get on very well. That's been really really cool.
The when I would speak with the when I was speaking with the client because and this might be new information to you as well. We actually had three offers, and
Yeah,
the conversation with him wasn't necessarily around what's the best price. Of course, price is really important, but it was also around the terms, who we felt would be the best person in the business, and interestingly, you were the person who didn't come from the industry.
yeah,
The other two buyers had experience in that industry before. So from an operational standpoint, you would probably think, well, you know what, that person probably has a really good chance of running the business. You came from
yeah,
an M&A background and a turnaround background, so certainly bring a very, very valuable set of skills, set of commercial skills. But what he was really interested in when speaking to him about these offers was actually who am I most confident in terms of completing the deal.
yeah.
And the thing that was really interesting, and this is the bit I'll share with you now, you were the lowest offer,
Oh, right.
not by $5,000 or $10,000, by six figures plus.
Yeah.
You were the lowest
Okay.
offer,
That's
and
interesting.
and it's because you made your
Yeah.
terms. You made him feel like you would complete the deal, and the terms that you
Yeah.
submitted in context with that offer were simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
There was nothing onerous or scary, and it wasn't like you bent over in terms of accepting or taking on an unacceptable level of risk. You were the one who the client said, you know what, I'm actually be really happy to spend the most amount of time after the sale in the business with Don.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just thought that was a really interesting thing for buyers and potentially our viewers to understand was that you don't necessarily win acquisitions based on price or terms. You win them based on giving the seller confidence that you'll complete the deal. And that's the one thing that really stood out in the conversations that I had with the client was that he just felt so much more confident with you. Like as an example, the other highest
Yeah.
offer, which was, I'm not kidding, like just under 200K higher than where you were, like 200K.
That's interesting.
What that offer wanted was he was willing to put down a deposit to secure the deal, but he said, I can't complete for 6 months and I've got to sell this other business first. And so there was quite a large amount of uncertainty, even
Yeah.
though he was willing to forego 10% of the purchase price and put that skin in the game. The client was like, well, in 6 months' time, what happened? I actually want to sell this business. And so, he might not have even done the deal by now.
Yeah.
But so hat off to you, mate. Like you really got a really good deal with the seller,
Yeah, yeah,
and the seller was really happy. And have you been happy? It's been 8 months since you've purchased.
yeah,
Looking
yeah.
back,
I
is there
just
anything you would have done differently?
That's interesting to hear that point around the I was coming from a place where I really had to. I was coming from a place where I really had to rely. I had no background in the industry, so I was really conscious of I'm going to have to rely on him to hand this business over to me and train me up. And so I didn't want to create friction in the deal that could jeopardize the relationship in the future, which is sort of like keep it simple, as fast and easy as you can. Um, so that's interesting to hear that point around the offer. The one thing I would have done differently was I would have approached the financing slightly differently. I would
Mhm.
have There's definitely a place for brokers, finance brokers. But in my case, I ended up getting better responses when I went to the banks myself, face to face, put the suit on, and took my proposal to them. I ended up getting better responses that way.
Mm,
And but I was lucky because I had a background in finance and numbers, so I could sort of talk their language a little bit more. And I wish I'd probably done that slightly earlier in the process. It probably ended up costing us a few months of delay that could have been avoided had I just gone direct to the banks myself.
mm,
Um, anyway, I should be careful. We
mm.
can edit this part out, but I don't want to I don't want to slag off the bro. What
No,
was
no.
saying?
I
What was
think
you saying?
that actually is a really interesting point. What about for sort of the deal itself, and like on the completion date, it's pretty messy
Yep.
for a few weeks afterwards, and like you're in a real pressure cooker, right, for 2 to 3
Yeah.
weeks,
Yeah.
and then gradually, all of the admin tasks, all of the handover of just simple things, utilities,
Yeah.
POS machines, all of that stuff. All of that pressure cooker work that you've got to do in those first couple of weeks starts to normalize. But
Yeah.
did you feel prepared? Was there any part you were nervous about the future?
One of the things I was nervous about was obviously the sort of the back office admin stuff of getting my set up correctly, making sure money's coming in correctly and being recognized correctly, and that the tax treatment's correct, and that the money's flowing through from the point of sale into the bank account properly. And I was very lucky that the seller, he's an accountant as well by trade, so he held my hand quite a lot with that. Um, and he helped me quite a bit with that actually. And then the other thing we were nervous about was customers dropping away. There's the cafe operation, and we were worried that people, and this was probably just like a bit of a neurotic thought, that our customers would drop away because there's been a change of hands, or the standards might drop because there's been a change of hands, and that all, you know, again, the seller helped us make sure that it was seamless. And then on the wholesale side, the same sort of thought was, cafe customers will think that the seller is moving on and going to leave them, and they've got this relationship, and it's all going to change, and this new owner operator. But again, we managed that. The seller still has skin in the game, so he's obviously still manages those relationships and very active on the wholesale side. But yeah, those were things we were nervous about. They all um, we managed them. None of them turned out to be true, so that was good.
Yeah, so 8 months in, then how is the business doing now? Like, have you had any drop off of customer, certainly on the wholesale side? Have things maintained? Have things worked out financially the way that you've expected so far?
So yeah, so on the wholesale side, we've picked up a few customers, which has been nice, and we've kept all our current customers. So that's really good, and we're looking to grow the business on that side. On the retail side, so the cafe, we track the average transaction value and the number of transactions very closely, and it's almost bang on the same level of volume as last year, which is really, like, I think actually positive given there's been the war, interest rates, inflation, petrol prices have gone up. So I think to sort of hold the line on the volume side
Mm,
has been really nice. On the transaction value side, we're actually slightly down, even though we put our prices up. So we did a new menu and put our prices up. We put up our coffee prices as well. not on the
That's a
wholesale
scary
market.
thing to do in your first 6 months of operating a business is to change prices.
Yeah. So the seller and I spoke about it a lot, and he was sort of steered me on that. They hadn't done a price increase in a while. He felt the time was right. I was really taking his steer on that.
Hmm.
And people haven't really. There's been no really negative responses to it. People understand.
Mm.
We'll probably have to do another price rise in October. So I think we did one in Jan. I think we did one just as we got in the saddle January, and we've been thinking about we might need to do one in October because minimum wage has gone up. You can't pass on bank transaction fees
Mm.
from 1 October. Petrol prices are still going up. So we will probably look to do another one. But yeah, it's something we think about.
And so 8 months after the deal, you and your wife, you moved from overseas, you moved to the area. Are you happy with
Yep.
the acquisition? Are you guys happy? Are
Yeah.
things working out
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. I wake up every day thinking we are so lucky. And I wish I'd done it earlier, to be honest, like in my career. Because it's scary. You don't know, it's a big risk. You're putting down a lot of money, you're exposing yourself to debt. But we got to the point where it was more of a risk not to do it, to be honest. We were
Mm.
not particularly happy in our jobs, and sort of looking at the next 10, 20, 30 years of working. And it was more like it became more like it's a bigger risk to stay doing what we're currently doing rather than to take a punt. But no, it's worked out very well. I love it. It's I'm learning how to fix coffee machines, which is something I thought I'd never learn how to do. Learning how to roast coffee, I can do latte art now on my coffee, so I can make a little love heart. That's all
Yeah.
new experiences, but yeah, I love it. I wish my advice would be if you're thinking about it to just go for it. Like I wish I'd done it earlier. Obviously, you've got to have your ducks in a row and your funding sorted out and save some money up. But
Mm.
we probably could have done it a few years earlier. Yeah, that would be my advice. Is if you've got the inkling, just go for it.
And from memory, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might have recently sold an investment property. If you were to buy an investment property today or another business, what would you choose?
Oh, I'd 100%. So I shouldn't slag off investment properties because that's how we created enough equity to get into this in the first place. Was we had investment properties, and that equity helped us get into the deal. But now all I think about, not all I think about, but if I was going to do another, um, do something else, it would definitely be another business. Like the cash flow is, you're so much better off financially, with the way you can manage your costs through the business. You can get more deductions having operating your own business legitimately. You can put more deductions through the business, and you have a more tax effective life.
Hmm.
And then mentally, emotionally, we're a lot happier
Mm.
being our own bosses.
Mm.
The work life balance. To be honest, I probably worked harder when I was at accounting firms.
Hmm.
It's different pressure. You've got to pay people's wages and bills and those types of things. But all in all, I think the return on a business that's performing well is a lot better than a investment property. Like I've still got my investment properties and they're still there, sort of ticking away. But if I was going to go again, it'd definitely be another small business. I think there's a lot, what I can see, not more than me, but it feels like there's a lot of businesses of sort of people in their 50s or 60s that have these cracking little businesses that you might not necessarily have ever heard of, but they're there. Doesn't feel like there's a ton of buyers. Maybe there is, but it feels like there's a lot more people trying to sell their businesses. When I look online, I see a lot of good businesses that I would be interested in again if we hadn't done this. So yeah, I'd definitely be leaning towards another business rather than investment property.
Interesting. Mate, thank you so much for your time today, Dom. Congratulations on the sale, and I'm so glad to hear everything's going well. I'm not surprised. I knew that you would be a fantastic operator in the business, and you put a great deal together, which involved the seller and an ongoing relationship with the seller moving forward. For pegged to around 12 months with an option to renew. And from what I understand, you guys will probably be working together for certainly longer than 12 months. So
Hopefully.
congratulations to you, mate.
Yep.
Really happy for you.
Thank you. It's been great. I love it. Thanks for your help in the deal as well. Like I thought it was really it was great to be able to have you to talk to as well, and to, I know you're acting for the seller obviously, but you also, in your interest to get the deal done, so it was helpful to bounce ideas off you, or, and get your feedback on things, or yeah, so no, I really enjoyed working with you, and yeah, it's been great. I love it.
Amazing, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Have a great day.
I feel like thanks, mate.
Hey, that was good, mate.
I think I need some interview practice.